All right, I'm here with Ann Marsh, who has just been inducted into the U.S. Fencing Hall of Fame. So Ann, tell me about your beginnings in fencing.
The beginnings?
Yeah, was Yuri your first coach?
No, actually, my first coach was my high school coach, who was John Zilkowski.
Where was that?
At Roper High School. Well, it's in Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham.
And give me the state for everyone who doesn't know.
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yes. And actually, John was great. We had a high school with 150 people in the whole high school, and he managed to get about 20 or 30 people to go out for fencing every year.
Really?
Yep. And I think part of that was just he was so enthusiastic about the sport. So, he would I think he got paid some minimal amount because it's a small private school to come in and teach fencing.
And the school was what?
Roper.
Roper
City, and it's actually
and
Roper School.
Who trained John? Do you have any idea?
He went to Wayne State, and I think he probably at some point took lessons with Istvon Danashi, but I'm not really sure how long.
That's good. So here you are with John, and did you love foil?
No, women only did foil.
Did you love it, though?
I mean, I loved fencing. Actually, I always wanted to try saber, but I mean, at that time, saber was just something people would laugh about women doing. Epee was sort of something maybe women would do someday, and saber was like, ha ha ha, women are never going to do saber.
So then, after high school, where did you go?
I started training with Yuri within a year or two of starting.
And was that at FAM?
Yes, it started out at FAM, so Fencing Academy, Michigan. And then after that I went to Columbia, mainly because the top people in the country were all training in New York City for women's foil. That was okay.
Now tell me about Columbia. Did you work with Aladar?
Just my last year, I think. I worked with George Kalambadovich for the first 2 years, and then I worked with Miklos Bartha, and then he got sick, and then I worked with Aladar. And
tell me about George, what he gave you and what Aladar gave you. Did they give you anything you can remember?
I think what really helped with George was the ability to not get too complicated. So to go straight when that was an option, and to really concentrate on, at least getting all the simple tactics down. So nothing too exciting. And then Aladar actually started the idea of, seeing, it brought my attention to focusing on what my opponent does when I start forward and then changing what I do. But none of my coaches, I like to flick a lot, and it wasn't real popular, especially in women's foil. And none of my coaches integrated that into my whole fencing system the way Bucky did. Bucky had this vision okay, you're good at that, and you're good at attacking, so that's what we're going to do. And Bucky actually was the first person who said, well, you're not good at going back, so just go forward. And I said, well, I can't just go forward. He said, why not?
It's true.
I said, why? I don't know, because you have to go back sometimes. And he said, why? And I said, okay. So the whole game was, we would take a step back, but it was always started with going forward, and then one step back and parry, or one step back false counterattack, or whatever. So we kind of created a whole strategy for what I was good at.
Interesting.
And a lot of the coaches that I would take lessons with, so they would do their lesson, and then they would have me hit them on the shoulder a bunch of times. But it was separate from the rest of the lesson. And Bucky always said, you always fence with different coaches, but you never looked like their students. So with Bucky, he integrated my going to the shoulder with other actions. So I go to the shoulder, then I go to the flank, then I go to the chest, and kind of that whole strategy with integrating that into all the different options, so that way I knew when to go there and when not to. Big difference.
Now, of your national titles, is there any one title bout for the U.S. titles that stands out that you remember that kind of sticks with you for the U.S. titles? Yeah.
You're talking about U.S. nationals?
Yeah, or U.S. whatever, Junior Olympics, nationals, whatever. Is there any one title bout that sticks in your head?
I didn't win that many titles, Andy.
Well, you won a whole bunch of tournaments. I refereed a lot of them. I remember you had a big bout. Let's see. You had a lot of big bouts.
I think probably the one that was the most helpful to me was, or the one that sticks out the most, is the first time I won nationals I think it was in '94. Just because I sort of put my life on hold to train full time, and so there's so much more pressure on you when that's all you're doing. And so the fact that I ended up coming third at a World Cup right before that, and then winning nationals, I felt like, okay, this is working. I can do this another 2 years.
And
because
who was
at
that bout
point,
against?
it was against Felicia. And I remember we warmed up for the bout together, like before the top 8, we warmed up together. And I think we warmed up on the final strip, because that was the open strip. And it was like that big green light. And she just hit me so many times when we were warming up. It was like all I could see was that big green light going on. And I was like, man, I hope she doesn't kick my booty, because I can't even hit her once in the warm-up. But then, like, in the actual bout, I ended up winning, so that was good. Maybe she ran out of touches after the warm-up.
Now tell me about that amazing comeback that you did against Germany.
Oh, that was great. You know, it was actually funny because Bucky's not really a cheerleader, and before I went up, he's like, okay, Ann, come on, you can do it. And I felt like it was so fake, you know? I was like, I can't do it. We're like, you know, 14, I don't remember how many touches behind. But I looked at Vladimir Nazimov, and actually, like, I could tell, but just by looking at him, that he thought I was going to win the bout. And because he thought that, I was like, started to think, oh, maybe I can win the bout. And actually, I think she scored the first 2 touches. And I was like, oh, you know, like, I at least want to get 5 before she gets 5. And then I just started hitting her, and I got into my rhythm, and it seemed like she kind of panicked. Like, she couldn't stop doing the same thing over and over. She just kept ducking.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, it was Anya Mueller. And actually, I didn't start that match because I didn't want to fence her. Because she's the person on the team I was afraid I'd have trouble with. And so she just kept ducking further and further over. And so I just kept hitting her on the back again, over and over. And I was like, if she keeps doing that, I think I could win. And
what did the final team score get?
I think the final score was 45-43. But I think when we started, well, I know that they had 39 because they were, like, Felicia ran the bout at a time, so I had a little bit more leeway. 39-28 maybe? Something like that. I don't know. Carla said it was 38-23, but there's no way. I think she just remembers, like, it being, like, even wider than it was.
Well, a 3 and an 8 look similar.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's what I remember.
Unfortunately, I have the Carl Borek tape. So as soon as I win, you don't see anything else because he's running, and so you just see the floor moving back and forth.
Can you get me a copy of that?
The video? Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it will make you a little bit motion sick.
It's all right. Well, Ann Marsh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andy.
And good luck going back to work. And thank you again.
Thanks.